So, cancel culture. It's so frustrating and not the most effective, but then also kind of neat, then annoying, maybe overdone, and definitely misunderstood. So let's get stuck in. What is up with cancel culture? As entertainment journalist Asia Romero puts it, cancel culture is the idea that one could be culturally blocked from having a prominent public platform or career, which is what makes the whole thing so frustrating to begin with. We, as audience members, are often not the decision makers in media and or whatever other industry prominent public figures are in. And there's very often some disconnect on either the facts or point of view, or what is at stake, or even what is right. But like, duh. The phrase "to cancel" was first heard in the 1991 crime thriller New Jack City, used on a personal level, and really got its wings in, you will genuinely never guess, an episode of VH1's 11 Hip Hop New York.
Get away from me. You canceled.
Canceled?
Canceled.
You got me up.
I was just watching New Jack City the night before I met with her that day.
What I love about these early uses is the underlying misogyny in both cases, like, how dare a woman question you or hold you accountable? She's canceled. Which really adds a sense of poetic justice when the Me Too movement in 2017 co-opted the phrase canceled when all the news about Harvey Weinstein broke. Which shows us that even very early on, cancel culture was about determining who has the power to stand up to who. So let's examine some power dynamics and how they can be so different and yet have similar outcomes. To do this, let's examine J.K. Rowling versus West Elm Caleb. Stay with me here, I promise it makes sense. As you may have read, J.K. Rowling has decided that her biggest issue is the whole swaths of young people being pressured into being trans. Hey Google, define transphobia, and her consequences of saying this means that cancel culture is ruining free speech. Joanne, if I can call you that. Like we covered in our last episode, you are free to say whatever you want, but I am free to call you out if I disagree. That's the beauty of free speech. The whole point, if you will. Meanwhile, on TikTok in mid-January 2022, the hashtag WestElmCaleb was trending when a surprisingly large number of women realized they had all had similar experiences with a young man named Caleb, who has a job at West Elm.
And if this video shows up on your For You page and you happen to be dating a West Elm Caleb, consider yourself warned.
It came to light that this guy, Caleb, was messaging a large number of women with absolute adoration to get them to meet up, and he would disappear and stop messaging them. To ghost, as one would put it. And this is obviously not very kind and pretty disingenuous. However, a lot of media coverage of this story had zero nuance to it. Some outlets went as far as to publish Caleb's full name and place of work, which is called doxing. And of course, I'm not saying what Caleb did was right. Of course it sucks. But the collective backlash swung pretty far against him, where he had zero input in the narrative. When J.K. Rowling is publishing her anti-trans ideologies in books, blog posts, and open letters, backed by other authors, academics, and publishers, she's doing so from a position of power and authority. She uses her fame, money, and connections to validate her stance against a community with a long history of oppression. Caleb, on the other hand, is arguably coming from a similar place as a lot of the women he's been on dates with, and is very much on a personal level being the target of harassment, not by these women, but by the media and the public. The main difference between Joanne and Caleb is the power imbalance. Joanne is one of the richest authors in history who is routinely getting up on her soapbox, and Caleb is just a guy who did not have a say in being thrown into the public eye and harassed and even doxxed by media outlets. The way both have been treated similarly, albeit not the same, is something we need to pay attention to. It seems that in our hyper-digital age, we have not yet decided who has the right to make mistakes in private and who doesn't. As tech reporter Taylor Lorenz puts it,
a lot of reason why people participate in these public shaming and outrage cycles on the internet is because they feel powerless against the actual structural systems.
What's also important to note is that cancel culture operates on the platform that mistakes should be met by punishment. Like how many justice systems work. Do wrong and you will be punished, whether that be incarceration, fines, volunteer works, probation, etc. And academics have long had a problem with this concept, as it leaves out why you might have committed such actions in the first place, or how to prevent them from reoccurring, or how we help people readjust and heal from the circumstances that led to such actions. How do we move from punishment-based justice to restorative justice. To be canceled is an idea that seeks accountability from people who may or may not have broken the law and who have not yet experienced the consequences of their actions, which to some extent is pretty interesting. It allows the voice of the people to have power in a way that it hasn't really before, which to me is where a lot of people have landed with cancel culture. The desire for accountability may be noble, but punishment without rehabilitation, re-education, or wholehearted apologies falls short of the kind of complex accountability most situations demand. I think we personally have a responsibility to keep ourselves and the people we interact with and the communities we belong to in check. So on a personal level, when you can, because I know it's hard, educate, don't cancel. Educating takes way more time, energy, and effort, but in the end, it helps people grow and gives them space to correct their mistakes. But when you have a fan base that reaches millions, you have to answer to them, which is why Joanne, she's canceled. Not by me, by members of the public and the franchise she's helped build, and many of her coworkers, but also kind of me. If you liked this video, share it with someone who always complains about cancel culture, and be sure to subscribe to CBC's YouTube channel for more content. I'm Kelly, this is Personal Politics, where I get up close and personal with ideas that are tough to talk about. And trust me, this one wasn't easy.